Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back. I'm Katja and today we are looking at Fantasy Friday. I have 5 reads to share with you and unlike last time, not a DNF in sight. So this time all 5 were captivating enough to whisk me away to magical realms, from haunted houses to Regency-era magic to a workplace where your boss just happens to be the realm's most wanted villain, and even taking me on a whimsical sea adventure into the Cosmere. So let's get into it. Book number 1 is from Charlie N. Holmberg. This is Keeper of Enchanted Rooms, Wimbrel House, book number 1. And we travel back in time to Rhode Island in 1846 to meet Merritt Fernsby, a writer with a complicated family history who inherits Wimbrel House, an estate with quite the personality. And seriously, this house has got more mood swings than a teenager. Enter Hulda Larkin, a specialist in taming magical houses, who's brought in to help Merritt make peace with his new home. Now, what I absolutely loved about this book is Merritt and Hulda. They are wonderfully charming characters, each kind, but oh so awkward, and they have the clumsiest sort of start to their meeting. And you can't help but really root for them and find their quirks endearing. Hulda, with her strong exterior and hidden vulnerability, is just chef's kiss. Now, Owain is a third character, but one that I can't really talk about without going into spoilers. So the less I say, the better, other than Owain is in themselves a good reason to pick up the book. This is a historical romance, slow burn romance, and this relationship between Merritt and Hulda is, for me, perfection. It starts with their intellectual connection and sort of builds on there. It is really just a feel good book and put me in a good mood. There's enough adventure as well and tension to make sure that we have high stakes mixed in. Now, where I think it could have been better is when we're talking about those high stakes. Yes, we have an antagonist and they're creepy, but I was hoping for a little bit more of them, especially towards the end. And I suspect that that is going to be built on throughout the series. Now, I was personally happy with the pace, but I'm okay with cozy fiction and slower romance fantasies. But it might not be for every fantasy reader. It is a bit slower than most fantasy novels. But if you liked Holmberg's The Paper Magician series, then you will like Keeper of Enchanted Rooms. It's a joy of a book, and especially if you like historical fantasy with a touch of whimsy and a dash of slow burn romance. Next up, Sorcerer to the Crown by Zen Cho, and this is book number 1 in Sorcerer Royal. It is a fabulous book if you like Regency-era England novels, especially when it comes to a dash of magic and mayhem. We've got Zacharias Wythe, a freed slave and now the Sorcerer Royal, dealing with a major problem. Magic is disappearing from England. On top of that, he is dealing with a ton load of racial prejudice from the magical elite. And then you have enter Prunella, a woman with immense magical power who's determined to shake things up and really add spice to his life. She's the mayhem element, in case you couldn't tell. So, what grew on me? Okay, I'll be honest. I'm saying grew because for me, the first part of the book, the first chapter, was really slow. It didn't pull me in straight away, and I had put it away. And I didn't remember to pick this book up again until I read Zen Cho's other book, Blackwater Sister. And I thought, wow, I really like her writing. And isn't there this book that I haven't read that I own? So I went back to it, and it was an audiobook. So the narration was brilliant, and the book itself then pulled me in. By the end of chapter 2, I was so invested. I was surprisingly charmed by the clever humor and wit, which reminded me of Jane Austen with a magical twist. And Zacharias and Prunella are a fantastic pair. Zacharias with his quiet determination, Prunella with her rebellious spirit. They're a match made in magical heaven. And it just has this overall whimsical tone that gives us a brilliant adventure vibe with lightheartedness. I don't know if that makes sense. But anyway, it doesn't take away from the exploration of serious issues like racism and sexism, even though there are laugh out loud moments. The book has depth, which kept me invested. I think the bits where it could have been improved are the plot points. Especially there's a conflict with the Sultan. If you read it, I felt that was really underdeveloped. Overall, though, Sorcerer to the Crown is whimsical and witty and perfect for fans of Regency-era settings and magical adventures. It definitely rewards you in the end, and I was so taken by it that I decided to go into book number 2. Now, of this book, the author Naomi Novak described it as a style that mixes Georgette Heyer and Susanna Clarke, full of delights and surprises. And I would agree that that is the vibe, but I've never finished Susanna Clarke's Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which this is referring to. And maybe what was missing is that sort of whimsy and Georgette Heyer's way of taking a narrative and galloping off with it after a fairly gentle start. So this was a winner for me. I continued on to book number 2, The True Queen, which takes us on a new adventure, but actually with different main characters, which I wasn't prepared for. I was still really invested in Zacharias and Prunella. Instead, I got sisters Muna and Sakti waking up on a beach on Jandabaik, another country. They have no memories and they've got a curse looming over them. And they have to travel to distant England and meet the Sorcerer Royal and go to the new academy. So the story shifts to the familiar faces of Prunella and Zacharias, but only for them to be really far back in the background. And we very much focus on Muna's journey, navigating the treacherous waters of high society and uncovering secrets of her past. And pretending to be a magical prodigy. So I loved her character development. It was definitely a highlight. She starts off overshadowed by her sister's magical prowess. Her quiet strength and resilience really shine through as the story progresses. So that I loved. It's really coming of age. The relationship between Muna and another student, Henrietta, is beautifully explored, and this is an LGBTQ plus romance. It adds warmth and a heartfelt dimension to the narrative. The return of Prunella with her sharp wit and commanding presence was really a positive in some ways, but also negative because it reminded me of just how charismatic I found her and Zacharias. And while Muna is a really strong character, or rather, her character starts to become a strong character that we're exploring, it felt in comparison that she was not as charismatic. I feel so bad saying that. Could you see how I'm slowing down? But yeah, she's not as charismatic as the other two. Also, I think that the plot was slightly more predictable than book number 1, but that is a minor quibble. I think it is actually a strong sequel that builds on the world that Zen Cho introduced us to in book number 1. And while it doesn't, for me personally, have the spark of its predecessor, it's definitely well crafted and enjoyable. So I think Zen Cho's writing for me hasn't been a disappointment so far, and I'm really glad that I went back and tried this and got to experience this blend of Regency magic, multicultural elements, and a coming of age story. I wish the series would carry on. I don't know if it will. So far, it seems to be a duology, and this book was, I think, published in 2020. Then we go on to Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mero, and I hope that's correct pronunciation for the surname. Once Upon a Time meets The Office or Superstore, in that it has these magical elements and world, but very much feels like a workplace romance. We've got Evie Sage desperately looking for a job to support her family, and she lands one with the realm's most notorious villain and ends up crushing on her evil boss. And he is struggling because someone's out to sabotage his evil empire. So it was a whole lot of good fun. Cozy fantasy vibes, workplace romance dynamic on point, and Evie and her brooding, charismatic boss were both equal parts adorable, hilarious, and killer. So she's a fun character, selfless, clumsy, and full of sunshine. But sometimes I have to say her humor didn't land for me. Still, personality and the overall vibe make up for it. The villain, on the other hand, was the ultimate anti hero, so I think that worked well. Slow burn romance, sweet and full of delicious mutual pining. So I would say if you're into fantasy romances that are sweet rather than quite explicit, because I think there's a lot of romantasy out there that's really explicit these days, then this is a good one to go for. Really good, cozy fiction. And I loved the plot twist at the end. I think where it might have fallen short for me a little bit is the world building wasn't hugely strong, and I don't have an understanding of the different kingdoms, for example. So it's very much character based, and yeah, the humor at times, like I say, it didn't land for me, but it was only minor. Magic system, if you're into those, you might be scratching your head as to what the magic system is entirely. It's not fully explored. But overall, if you're after a light, cozy book full of laughs, then this is one to check out. And I've pre ordered the next book, Apprentice to the Villain, which is out next Tuesday on August 20th. So that takes us on to last but certainly not least, Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. And this is book 28 in the Cosmere, but the first of Sanderson's secret project novels. Set in the vast and connected Cosmere universe, we follow Tress, a young woman from a small island in an emerald green ocean. When her friend and one true love, Charlie, is taken on a dangerous journey, Tress sets out to save him, and she embarks on an adventure across spore filled seas where danger lurks at every turn. I loved the whimsical, light-hearted tone. It was just what I needed at the time that I read it. It has Princess Bride vibes, filled with tongue in cheek humor, philosophical nuggets, and some serious themes that add depth to the story. The found family trope is beautifully done. You've got Tress meeting a whole bunch of people on a ship, Huck, Fort, Soleil, and they just become this lovable bunch to root for. The writing is really simple, yet effective, and there are memorable passages. I think it's a great family read. Now, where I think it could have been stronger is perhaps the details of the seafaring itself. So you really get the sense that you're drawn into it anyway for the characters. It's not a huge thing about what life is like on a ship, but I think it's tricky when you're going for simplicity because there are other books out there that do the simplicity while also delivering on the seafaring. And I'm thinking of books like The Adventures of Amina al Sarafi. That said, that is more grown up in feel, and this one does feel more all age, so it's a minor quibble. Um, yeah, I'm also familiar with the Cosmere, so I managed to pick up on a number of connections of different characters, recurring characters from different adventures appearing here. And that might go over the head of people who are picking up this book as a standalone for the first time and don't know about the Cosmere. But I don't think it takes away from the fun of this story in itself. So, overall, Tress of the Emerald Sea is a great addition to the Cosmere. It's whimsical, thought provoking, and a must read for Sanderson fans. Now, I've got a very plain copy, but I have seen, and I'll try and find the video. Patrick Leo has got a very beautifully illustrated special edition. If you're into special editions, you might have noticed that on this channel, I don't always have hardcovers to show you, or not hardcovers, paperbacks as well. Physical. Physical is what I'm looking for. I don't often have physical books to show you because I'm going very much ebook and audiobook way, just to save space. I read a lot of books, and it's tricky if you're not in a huge place to have all of your books. I love them, yeah, but yeah, space. So instead of rambling, I'll say that's a wrap. Each of these books brought something unique to the table. If you've read any of these and if they're on your TBR, drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. I'd also love to hear about what you're reading and enjoying right now. And thank you so much for tuning in. As always, Happy reading.